we have 5 here. I'm going to call the meeting to order. It's 7:01. All right. So has everybody had a chance to review the last meeting minutes that were linked?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. So motion to approve those.
I so move.
Oh, sorry, roll call. Well, I've done it visually.
Okay.
I've done it visually.
Okay.
Johannes is excused, and I know who's here, and I know who's not here.
Okay.
So maybe some other people will trickle in, but we've got 5. All right. So motion to approve the last meeting minutes.
So move.
Okay.
Second it.
RN second. Patrice Berlin. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Unanimous. Everybody who's here. All present. Okay.
Calendar.
All right. So then I will move on to the update by the committee chair. So as most of you who are checking your email regularly probably know, here's Joanne.
Yay, Joanne.
All right. Trickling in. The Harvard Westlake hearing has been rescheduled until August 8th. Did everybody see that? See those
But the
emails?
final September 20 thing is still in place.
Correct.
You're expanding one and compressing the other.
And compressing the other. And there's only likely to be about a week between the release of the staff report prior to the
September.
to the commission hearing. So that's something we may wish to address because it doesn't give the neighborhood council much time to react to the staff report. So there's been, you all here, we all know that fireworks are not limited to the 4th of July. They can happen anytime in July.
Okay.
All right, vis-a-vis the request by certain stakeholders / board members to request that we delay that the neighborhood council or that the land use committee to the neighborhood council request the councilman to request to the planning department that the hearing be delayed until after the story polls go up. However, the story polls are not mandatory, they're a voluntary measure. So predicating or defining the timing of the meeting or hearing relative to the story polls going up does not make strategic sense. And that's one of the reasons why I did not put a motion to that effect onto this agenda, and that's one of the reasons why I believe the board president has not taken up any of the requests to make that request to the councilman. So that's what I have. I'll do some preface to the cases that we have when we get to those cases, but that will move us to public comments. So, Mr. Isbicki, that brings you to the chair.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you for taking issue with the story poll or delay. The issue, let me just go back with the story poll issue. I mean, it was something that was brought up to the board a year ago, and the board passed it. Whether or not it was mandatory is one thing, but to officially request it and follow up with it was something else. So my concern was that you can try to do something, even they can come back and say it's not mandatory. I would love that to be on the hands of the council office rather than on yours or anyone else's in our purview. Because it's not our decision to decide what can or can't be done. Anything can be done. We're just an advisory, or you are just an advisory board. And you can ask anything you want from anyone you want. Anyone. And ultimately, the people in power have to answer to the voters, ultimately. That's what the thought is, or the design is. So where I was coming from in requesting that this be actually highlighted was because of that. We have taken issue with it. We have dealt with it. We voted on it. We passed it. And yet, I'm glad that they delayed the hearing. But again, like you mentioned, the September hearing is going to be not delayed, but maybe we'll take issue with that then, because we're gonna have to. Bottom line is that you have 3,000 pages of documents, and even though the design of the city is to give you 60 days pretty much, or 75 days to go over it all, in the enormity of this project, which is probably the biggest project, definitely in the hillside in our generation, it's something that definitely needs to be dealt with, and I'm confident you guys will, and our board will. So again, thank you for that. I apologize if there were some fireworks, but you can understand where I stand, how physically and directly I'm impacted, as well as my hillside neighbors. And so, you know, when I see an agenda that doesn't even lay mention of anything having to do with this upcoming event, I just got a little bit of concern. So thanks again, and look forward to working with everyone.
Have we heard from your neighbors? Have they been before us?
Which ones?
Have your neighbors come before us, or they've always delegated it to you?
You mean?
Yeah, I don't think I've seen.
The Rhinews are always here. Arden?
Well, there were a number of people at
Senator
the,
from Safe Golden Canyon, yeah.
to the board.
Safe Quarter,
Oh,
people
that's
don't
nice.
go to Safe Quarter Canyon. They're neighbors, they're
Yeah,
community.
no, I'm just asking because I don't sit on the board and have
Oh.
patience for board meetings, so I
Oh, I
only see
see,
you.
that's
I don't
right,
see-
that's right. Yeah, I don't see you either
Am
that
I the
often.
only one?
Yeah, we have,
No, I mean, well, you mean, who's not sitting on the board? What's
No,
the
no, I'm
question?
just saying, I see you, but I don't see, usually we see one, if it's a spokesperson, it's like a bunch of people in the audience, or, you know,
Right.
cheering squad.
Right, well, I think when the last draft, DEIR, when we had it at the meat locker down at, where do we have it here? When was that?
In another big room.
2 different rooms? Yeah, there were quite a bit of stakeholders
100.
that were in the area, yeah, so. They come out, but again, we have to work, believe it or not, and we hope that our city officials don't make us take on a second job
Well, I
by
think,
doing their
you know,
job.
strategically, you might want to have your group come out
Mhm.
and push hard to have the elected officials, representatives here, because they don't always come, but if we
Yeah.
ask, they do come, and that might be a better opportunity for the representatives,
Absolutely.
staff people to see, and that might be a
Bodies.
strategy. One person never makes the same impact as 30.
Well,
That's true.
that did happen at the last board meeting.
Yeah.
You generated quite a significant
Yeah,
turnout.
and who
when
was here from the
Krikorian
staff?
was here.
Whose staff was here?
Krikorian was here, and his field deputy, and I don't think Caro was here, but two of his office staff were
And the
here.
interesting thing was is that during that hearing, we didn't have a lot of the other side here, the kind of like the booster club from the school, and when we're talking about HW. And you could actually listen and hear the concerns. They weren't just droned over by just cheers and just repetitive testimony. So I really found it to be incredibly impactful. I think the city did as well, who were here. the
Is
representatives.
your squad going to submit written?
Safe Quarter Canyon. Safe Quarter Canyon? Safe Quarter Canyon?
Well, no, just
Squad.
you as
You mean my
neighbors, not.
neighbors, my community?
Yeah.
Sure. Everyone's, there's already been, I think,
Over
hundreds.
3,000 people.
Yeah, we've had
that are-
about 3,000
have signed petitions, it's not just.
But
comments.
have written, because it becomes
yeah.
part of the record.
Oh, it is. And if you look on
And
the
that's not
FEIR.
important for now, but as a lawyer will tell you,
Yeah.
it's important later.
Oh, yeah. And
Because the argument will be, nobody ever brought it up.
Well,
So
it-
if you have the people writing the letters, then
I
you've
think we
got
have like 1,000 on the FEIR.
letters,
Comments.
comments.
From the last
From the
RDE.
RDA.
Yeah.
So
Not a
anyways, I
thousand.
want to thank you, everyone, for your, it was a very nerve-wracking moment for a lot of people who chose to live in a canyon community just for that, to live in the peace and tranquility of a canyon. And it's been completely taken upside down in the last 5 to 10
Yeah,
years.
they are really looking to upset every single rule of the book.
Well, they are. Oh, they are. A reinvention of what it is to operate within that type of topography.
Just a suggestion, I read the email exchanges, it's better if you don't get personal, I think your emails will be more effective if you just state
Yeah, of
issues.
course. Yeah.
Please bring this up, we need it, and why we need it, without actually verbally attacking anyone.
Yeah, no, that's very true. What had happened was, because I'd been dealing with the school in regards to noise issues, as you know, in the past. And in my opinion, whether it's because, look, again, we're all a volunteer entity. Yeah, not a lot's been done, and it's been an encroaching issue that's just been growing and growing and growing. And I think a lot of people that live in my community, and you speak about who comes out here, a lot of them are shut-ins. A lot of people are elderly. A lot of ADA people can't come out here. They
You
just
know how to
can't.
operate a video camera?
True, but the reality is that people that live in a lot of these communities, I don't even know what the demographics are, but I would say maybe 25% are probably over 50, over 60, retired. And that's not an excuse.
I'm over 50.
I'm over
Well,
50.
I can suggest to you, there's a guy named Skip Hayes,
Yeah.
who, he doesn't make a living doing it, but he puts together videos with petitions, and he's very...
Door to door.
No, he gets people out, and he interviews them, he puts the video together. So he's got like a 5-minute presentation that defines the issues, and puts together like narratives. They blast my neighborhood with it when we want something done. I
Right.
live up in the
I'd love
hills.
to see an example, and I'd love to maybe get in touch.
Well, his name is Skip Hayes, so if you just send me an email,
I will.
we'll
Thank
send it
you.
back. But he's very effective.
But you're talking about the presence of coming to here, this
Well, this is a
location?
different issue. This
This
is a way
issue.
to it's a way to format your position. And you
Yeah.
have to think about that because you know the first hearing is not going to be the last hearing.
Right, of course.
The other thing, you gotta remember you're preaching to the choir. I don't think there's
Oh, I
anyone
know,
on this
I
board
know.
that doesn't agree with you.
I know.
The
And
Westlake
I apologize,
Harvard
Richard, that I had
garage.
such-
I mean,
Listen.
This is horrifying to everybody that's looked at it. I mean, the fact that they'd have lights on top and all that,
practice field.
and practice games where right under people, the sound's gonna rise because that's what sound does, and all the people that live above it are gonna hear the
Well, I
sound.
think it's a surprising vanity project for a school that doesn't need to enhance itself in order to attract a student body,
Right.
making you
You're
think
doing
that
quite well as
there's really another agenda later.
Yeah.
But let's go specifically to this issue of the story polls. And I know you say that we can ask anything we want, sure, but I do think we have to choose our voice carefully. And I think that the story polls, which is a great idea, right? If the community can see what this thing is going to look like ahead of time, it gives some idea. I understand that. But it's totally voluntary. There's no statutory requirement for it. If and when Harvard Westlake does that and lives up to this agreement that we're not even privy to, right, that Mr. Krikorian has negotiated
Right.
or has had some conversation about, they can do it on their own pace, and they'll probably do it whenever they think that it's strategically beneficial for them to do it. To make a request that a hearing be delayed until after this voluntary effort, it doesn't make sense, and it doesn't make sense strategically because there's no real precedent to pin that request to.
They've already acknowledged wanting to do it.
Right, but
So if they did, then why not
Why
ask?
don't you do it? Why don't you have your group do it and put it
We
something?
did.
well, they can do story polls?
We can't legally,
Oh, no, we can't put them
You
up
can
ourselves.
put it, not on their property, but you can make one up and start circulating it and invite them to
True.
challenge your errors.
Anyway,
True, but the point was that the councilman said that they'd agreed to it.
the strategic,
one of the things he
the
brought.
strategic issue is that as a board, I think that we have to, if we say, this is what we have to say before the 24th, that we want you to delay the meeting until story polls go up.
As
right?
you promised.
There's no, well, but they didn't promise, I mean, we're nowhere in that chain, right?
I don't understand.
As a third it's hearsay to us, right? It's hearsay to us on the board because it's from Krikorian, from
But he
Harvard
spoke to the
Westlake.
board,
Right.
And he relayed that information.
And we say, delay the meeting until after that happens. That's what we want.
No, we
right?
want the story polls to be up so we can get enough information, because the point of the meeting is to gather information of the public.
Right.
And how can that effectively be done if we don't have a full understanding and appreciation of the size
The
of this
story polls will
project?
be a bonus if and when they happen.
No, but we're
Right.
skipping around now.
No,
My
no,
point
no.
was,
Listen,
yeah,
I'm running this meeting,
Yeah, of
Alex.
course.
Okay? So, and that's one of the problems, I think, is when I began to question your judgment. You were unable to flip the perspective and see what I was talking about, okay? So I made a strategic decision. And
Which was?
which was that simply that we have an opportunity to comment. Now we have an opportunity until August 8th to come up with our comment. Really, it doesn't leave us much time as a board. But what I'm saying is, if you say, if we use our comment to say, delay the meeting until X happens, whatever X is, right? You still need a set of fallback objectives and requests that would supplement that in case that first request goes
So you're saying
goes
if we get
unfulfilled.
rejected with something, if someone gets rejected with
What
something,
else
then
is
the
it that we
future-
want, right? So for example, one of the things that I think we will be looking at, and that I will be talking to the board about, in this very small ad hoc committee that's discussing this right now, is, and I've been told by Milena, the hearing officer today, that there's normally about a week, that the staff report will come out a week before the commission hearing, right? And that's not a lot of time to digest. One of the important issues, I think, is going to be this statement of overriding considerations, which will be written into the staff report. That's the debate really is whether the public benefit, the public good of that project is a trade-off for the unmitigatable environmental impacts, right? She said, well, that's usually only a couple pages. It's not that hard to digest, right? But as a board, we won't necessarily have the time in our sequence of practice of our normal routine to come up with a response, right? So one of the things we may want to ask is looking ahead to that contingency, right? To say, well, we are where we are now, but we would like, between the release of the staff report and the hearing, to have a month's period of time, or maybe it's 2 months, or maybe it's whatever period of time we decide to ask, that we can kind of fix the problem that we're having now with a compressed time frame.
Yeah, no, I clearly
Right?
understand now.
So I understand the objective, but I think that it becomes more layered. And as I wrote, and I think one of the interesting things that we saw in the fireworks was that you were actually responding to an email that was between you and I and Denise, right? So many of these people don't have any idea what set you off in your most inflammatory
Maybe one
email.
of them was a reply to all. I apologize.
Anyway.
I only reply to all whoever writes me, so I didn't. I should have
picture
probably
you,
looked at it.
Alex, doing most of the stuff on the phone,
I did.
because
It's a lot
most
of
of
words.
the exchanges that we had in the past week had at least, almost everyone had auto-correct spell.
know.
I have to work to interpret what you're saying
Yeah,
when
I
you
know.
communicate to me like that. It takes work and it takes time.
I understand.
So between the two of us, and between where your patience is thin for obvious reasons, and my patience becomes thin for obvious reasons, it does become,
I leave
and
it
it's
in your
a
hands. I know
volatile
you guys know better,
project.
So I will relegate. And,
But since you're
thanks
here,
for
and
the-
since we don't have anything else to do, let's talk about a couple of other things
Yeah.
Nobody else is coming?
that are in. I suspect not. That are also feeding the fuel to your emotional state.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have the noise issue. You've talked twice in front of this board, in front of this committee, about the noise issues. We came once, we talked about it. I think Mel had some interesting suggestions about what the neighborhood could do as far as legal pursuits. I think you and I talked on several occasions about getting documentation, and several months passed and you got some documentation. I happen to be very thorough in my approach to problem solving. I like to drill down very deeply into problems. I did, and I believe that I distributed this to you, go through and study all of the cases. I marked up a copy of Zemus. It said which cases relative to Harvard Westlake were available online, which ones we might want to research. Some of which we'd have to go down to Piper Tech to go back to the very roots of when that school was first approved as, when
Golf course?
it
Was the country club?
was a military school, right?
No,
Before that was, so somewhere in a box, like where they keep
Yes.
the Ark of the Raiders of the Lost Ark, there are some documents which might spell out some of the initial conditions of that project.
555 Ramirez Street.
And it would be very interesting, and perhaps not only germane to a discussion about this, what I call the creeping intensification of use, right? Little by little, they add classes, they add summer programs, right? but to find what the basis of that approval was. It might be useful relative to presenting some of the sound problems that we've
Yeah.
had.
Because that, you know, when Campbell Hall came up the first time before this big bill, they did come up to the Land Use Committee, and they swore on a stack of Bibles that they weren't going to, they were oversubscribed by like 250 students, and everybody goes, well, we didn't know that. And when the board, our committee pointed that out to them, they swore on a stack of Bibles that they would reduce their numbers, and they'd never ask for more if we gave them this, this, and this. And they got this, this, and this, and then they, you know, and then they went and they did this, you know, enhancement to the campus that never even came to the Land Use Committee. I don't know, I mean, clearly they drafted it somehow and managed to be a by right. Were you around then?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
what he's saying has validity.
Yeah.
They register, they
But
have
like
a.
you said, they swore on a stack of Bibles. I mean, the
Well,
project
Richard
that-
has found a solution to that, and so we're going to try to start recording our documents with the county recorder.
Okay.
You mean as far as conditions and requirements
Right,
and?
so that,
Yeah.
so the reason is that, so that it doesn't get lost, and it gets recorded, and it's in the chain of title, and it can't, and most importantly, it can't be ignored.
Right. Because these projects are generational. I mean, they're going to go for the next 100
Well,
years.
that,
50.
same thing's going to happen with Universal, because I have the paperwork from 20 years ago, and they're now on their third ask to get what they wanted 20 years ago, which we didn't give them.
Right.
That's just completely how it seems to go.
Yeah.
So, back to to that noise issue. It's not something that I'm unsympathetic to, but there is a flow of work into this committee that unlike, I mean, the budget committee has a routine set of items that they have to deal with on a routine calendar, but we've got cases that come in that we have to deal with in a timely manner. So, and going through the documentation that you finally did provide as to the sound, the various neighborhood complaints, and the map, and so forth, that some of the previously registered complaints had been responded to, and it was already clear that it was a fairly political, that people in the city were interpreting the noise complaints as being related to objections to the proposed garage.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know who said that. I didn't see that in writing.
It was in one of the email chains that you had sent to me. Okay.
But did it come from the city?
It came from somebody in the city,
Okay.
right? Somebody building safety. Anyway, the short answer to that issue is the person who is responsible for striking a balance between a conditional use such as that and the residential use that is really the underlying use is the head zoning administrator, right? So it would be fairly easy to pass that package on to the zoning administrator. It didn't look to me from that chain of email exchanges and the complaints that had been issued that it had ever gone to that person, to the head zoning administrator.
Oh, wow. Well,
So,
that's a shame.
and I am willing to pass that
Well,
entire
he's coaching you
package.
here, so you should be taking notes.
I am.
What?
He's coaching you, you should be taking
Well, no,
notes.
I'm sorry. I'm willing to pass that package on to the zoning administrator, right? But I would like to dig into that background, and it might be germane not only to that particular issue, but also to the issue that faces us
believe me.
now, right?
The encroachment has been growing, and these are objective. These are not subjective limits. These are noise ordinances have specific numbers. So it's when some of it's interpreted as a kind of as a response to something else, that's a real easy out. When it could possibly be just that the new leadership at the school really doesn't give a rat's rear end about what the community thinks
Right.
or feels by their other activities.
Right, but
which
you
is,
have to,
yeah.
but I like to be in a position where I know at least as much as, if not more, than that person or anybody else in the
That's
city,
just
which is.
one comment by
No,
one
but
person.
I'm saying, that's why I want to
Yeah.
go back, that's why I would like to go back and I mean, ideally, right, go
Yeah.
back and understand what the initial
Well, I'm in the middle
approvals
of it,
were.
guys. I'm in the muck.
Well,
Yeah,
but
I
I think
understand.
a good resource for you too would be St. Mike's, because until maybe like 8, 9 years ago, they had a school there, K through 5, 6, 7, 8, I can't remember. You know, there's a school,
To the church.
yeah,
Yeah.
then Mike St.
Now it's a daycare center, right?
No, it's been a lot of things since, but it was
Okay.
actually a school, and it had a lot of noise problems with the people in the canyon. The local residents weren't really happy, but that church has been around long enough so that itself, it's from the 70s, may have some more information. And
True.
my book has information on the
Oh,
history.
I agree. And I don't want to beleaguer the
That's
thing,
fine.
but my point is that we have to also, and going back to the noise, because we've opened that chapter,
Yeah.
what is a school? And what is a entertainment entity or a sports entity that just hosts a lot of different clubs and groups and rents places out? So at what point does the definition of a school come with its conditions? And at what point does this entity,
Sure.
which has many different things,
And that's exactly-
parking lots and drama centers
That's
and,
exactly why going back and
Amphitheaters.
finding that original,
Well, of
those
course,
original
of course.
approvals could be very useful.
but to be able to hide behind that moniker of well, we're just a school.
Well, I mean, the thing to consider is you look at public schools
And
where you
that's
have
why schools are given latitude.
a 3 or
because they're not
4
expected
block
to have
area,
jumbotrons and
a 3 or
drum-
4 block area a square block area in the middle of a residential district. It's a public school. It's a contained, kind of very defined. It works
Schools
very
have
well
usually been there
on the
first.
flats, right? And then that school feeds that community.
Right.
There's a symbiotic
Notre
relationship.
Dame or,
Well,
look, they're right in the middle of a
Yeah.
Well, the people whine
semi-residential
about that
commercial.
too.
They do.
But this what we're talking about, I think, in this particular instance is a much, and that's why those kinds of institutions are allowed conditionally in residential areas, right? They
Residential commercial.
I just
Yeah.
want a couple of quick points.
yeah.
They don't have a cup other than with the lights, and with this new, they have to now have a cup. So all this may be a moot point, because now the city is requiring that they have a cup, CUP. So it's like two things that's coming up. It's obviously the garage, but they also have all the CUP conditions that are now going to be established because they were grandfathered in, and they've been operating without a CUP for 80 years, or whatever it is, except for the one CUP they got for the lights. But see now,
Right, those were all deemed to be approved, right? Those was,
I heard that they didn't quite go through the avenues they were supposed to, but they're in place, and obviously they've been not adhering to it. But the point is, it may be a moot point, because now they have to have a CUP along with this garage approval, or not, and you'll see that they're now gonna have a new CUP. So
Right, but it-
we're gonna have to start.
So the whole
We
campus
have to
is
start
up
all
for
over.
grabs.
Yeah, it's
Right.
a
Well,
reinvention
true.
of the school.
and
And
that's why
also-
go back to the roots to see what they're.
Well, they were before, homes were there first.
I understand that.
So, but that's important because they have to fit, if they were there first, it'd be a little different.
They're
But
the guests.
they did move in, the homes were there first, so
Right.
they need to.
It was a residential neighborhood.
And
Right.
it's sensitive topography.
Yeah, it was a country club with houses.
Right.
with-
I think that
And then the
matters
school
with the
moved into the
CUP,
clubhouse.
who was
Right.
there first, so,
Right. Meaning they're the guests, and they're,
Yeah.
we're not.
exactly.
Well, it's who came for the nuisance, that's
I
really the
think that's
question.
an
Right.
interesting thing to do. Can we organize?
You can go down to Piper Tech.
I'll go with you. I just need to,
Would you?
like I said, sure.
I mean, I sent I sent the PDF. I mean, I thought I sent it
The
to you and
thing to
Mr.
do is-
Adams,
is
and it will tell you exactly and what the process is, who to call. You call and you get a box number, and then you call Piper Tech, and they pull the box, and you get down and you
Yeah,
make
I've done
copies.
that for the PAD. I did that for the lights, the PAD.
I think the
all these
PAD's
numbers.
that was one of the ones that's online. But anyway, that might be a useful pursuit. One of my again, I'll take certain responsibility because I do like to have all of my T's crossed and my I's dotted before I take any action. I feel that it generally allows and provides a more kind of nuanced view and response to the situation. Okay, so, but if we can do that, I think it will be useful in terms of that sound issue, and as well, it may be useful in terms of the current issue that's on the table, which is really the garage.
Let's go do that.
Yeah.
You know, I'm retired. It's not like I'm doing it.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah, as I say, our ever eager and
Very well informed.
energetic.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, give me a year.
They have a copy machine there.
Yeah.
Bring your camera.
I'm marking like I'm a jail cell month by month.
Yeah,
How,
they allow you
you know,
to take, but it's better to
until I
bring a
get to
camera and get more
24.
pixels. It's the phone camera is
Okay.
really, is
Got it.
oh,
Got it.
dicier when you
Yeah.
get home and go, oh my God, what happened
Yeah,
here?
yeah. So now again, shifting over to this new CUP, is that going to be a reinvention of the school? So.
well, if it's an overall
Who's gonna have the
reset,
time to place these limitations, or do you find do you mirror other CUPs?
Well,
Remember, we're not, this is a canyon, you know? You can't take a CUP from, Nordoff and Haskell and say, look, this is this, let's
There's
follow
some
these.
science, there's gotta be some science to how sound travels.
yeah.
You've got your work cut out for
And a
you.
reflection for it, though. Yeah, and to
I have another question. According to what I saw on the video of was it the transportation meeting? It was the one I couldn't get to this
Yes.
week. They said that there was going to be a practice field on top with no seats, no music, and then a woman on the video asked about the lights. That thought just horrifies me, but, because I'll be able to see them. So my thought was, they can tell us there are going to be no seats and no this and no that, but is there a way to tell from their construction plans that the plans have already built in all of the necessary electrical and what have you to do that?
No.
Well,
No?
just on that note, they don't have the space. It's a regulation-sized football field, but no extra space for bleachers.
bleachers.
There is
So
a
it-
little clubhouse
A little
area up there
clubhouse.
for storing equipment.
Yeah, but
But
there's
they're gonna have
no,
to put up a fence there to use the roof, right? Otherwise, all the balls are gonna be sailing
they
in.
Yes,
have some
they
kind of.
talk
So
about
it's
that.
actually,
There's netting
that's not the height. The height is gonna be
Higher.
5
Even higher.
stories.
Yeah.
Well, it's a
They gotta put a chain link
it's a
fence up there.
three-story garage with a rooftop, basically with a rooftop,
Which
is
which
the
is gonna
fourth
be
story.
surrounded by fences.
which is the
with one more
the
story.
Well,
fourth
netting.
story.
I think
It's
it's
netting,
netting.
I think.
Well, but
Netting.
it's one more
Still the
story.
height will
Yeah.
still
Right, so
be-
that makes four.
Well,
That's what it's
the
being
light
called, 4
poles.
stories, I believe. I mean, it's in the application. It's referred to as a 3-story parking
Yeah.
garage.
But
Right,
it's,
but
the
it's
walls are
essentially- it's a-
96 feet or something.
It's a 4-story. Is it 96 feet to
Well,
the
they're at
top of that
96
fence?
feet?
The retaining wall is
Right.
90 feet.
In the back,
But-
yeah.
Right, but that's because the hill's going to be higher than the building, so the building, somebody asked me that question, the building's not going to be 90 feet.
Right.
But the hill behind it needs to be held back
Well,
to.
right there should really tell everybody what you need to know.
Yeah.
That it's not supposed to be built there.
Yeah.
Right, but to go to the question about whether you will see details. So just for your information, a planning entitlement package doesn't generally have electrical plan information. A planning application package, however, is open to public inspection, and you can go look at it. You can get copies of it. It's a matter of the public record. Generally, plan check documents, construction plans are not necessary. They don't have the same built-in. When you go to the building department, you have the same level of transparency. Now, while we're on this topic, I'll go to something else, which is that they've applied for permits, right? And that was there's a concern about that in the neighborhood. But a number of the topics in the EIR and the FEIR relate to geotechnical foundations, right? The reason they've applied for those permits is largely related to having a mechanism to submit those documents to the appropriate city authorities who have the expertise to say, yes, this foundation system will work and is consistent with
So it's part of their package of
practice.
approval.
It's
Got it.
right. So I wouldn't interpret it necessarily as them being
Presumptuous.
of being sneaky or trying to get ahead of the curve. I mean, most of what I saw that those applications entailed are reflected in review segments in the FEIR.
Yeah.
Right. So they have, because otherwise, who's going to judge whether that foundation system
Right.
is sufficient? It's the geotechnical, grading and geology division of LA Building and Safety.
Got it.
So I don't want you to think that I am unsympathetic to your position, that I'm heartless or don't care about the canyon communities. I do
You're a
very
nice
much see it as a
person.
collaborative, which is a give and take. And yes, we're all volunteer army, and so we have to be very patient with each other. I'm patient with you. I still consider you a dedicated and constructive member of the board and member of the community. I don't hold anything against you. We all have to kind of
I hope so.
let go of things. This was a point that Ms. Deutsch made at
Well,
a Cultural
I
Affairs
thought about
Committee
that.
last night.
I thought about that little
Right.
debate last night, and I thought, oh, there's a Rasta in the room.
3 exchanges
Well, anyway, you know,
on an iPhone.
to the extent, to the degree we can pull this wagon in the same direction together is, I think, the degree,
No, I
the
agree.
extent,
And
right?
I
You said at a
wanted to
meeting
come out
the
here to
other,
reiterate my appreciation for
the other
your
day, we're
services.
beginning to gel, right? And it takes
Yeah.
time and it takes a learning or it's a rhythm. So anyway, you know, we'll see, we'll get there. Maybe we'll get there just at the time that our 2-year terms expire and we'll all say goodbye. But
3 years.
I've signed up for 2 years.
Oh.
As I just said,
And he's
I'm,
marking them off in red ink. in his
yeah, on my
calendar.
jail cell. So anyway, all right. Well,
All right, well, thank you,
Anything-
board
anything
and
else?
committee, and I will thank you again.
All right,
Thank you for
you're
your
welcome,
your
Alan.
ear.
all right. And you, sir, do you have a public comment? Are you here related to a particular project or?
Yes, the
What-
Jinya Ramen.
Oh, good,
I'm
okay.
Nathan Freeman.
Oh, hey, how are you? Oh, you did an excellent job. Well, we're just coming to your case now. Will you do me the favor of signing a speaker card?
I think, is there a package I'm missing? I only got the agenda, I don't get the attachment.
What do you have?
Here,
I have the,
we're sharing.
Service Industry Standard.
We're sharing some of those. I tried to collect most of the ones that I had last week,
Oh,
but
you might- required conditions.
VTT.
This is the one we're gonna work on.
That's the one we're going to work on, but we have. I think Richard has one. I must.
Yeah, no,
I,
I'm trying to figure it out because I
have another one.
I brought this form. I'm gonna see whether or not we can pull it off
okay.
on a
Anyway, I'll-
motion form.
I've got a copy. I've got a copy there of that for you. You can have that one. All right. So we've basically done 4 and 5 in a conversational manner. So that brings us to 6.
Oh. Wait, where's that come from? So land use committee.
All right. So well, you can leave it back there. That's fine. I'll find it at the end of the meeting. That's okay. No, it's fine.
I will tell you what I forgot. I forgot my case file.
All right. Well, I've got it here. I will tell you. So you're Nathan.
Yes, I am.
Do you have a card for me?
Oh, certainly. That I did manage to grab.
Excellent.
It's
I'm
a.
actually just leaving another land use committee meeting, Westwood.
Oh, so you're
Another
running
project I
around.
have over there, and I realized that, I'm grabbing renderings and this and
Yeah.
that, and I realized that I didn't grab the binder for this
It's okay.
project, so I'm gonna have to do whatever I can from memory.
I would not. I wouldn't worry about it too much. I have to say that this is for a beer and wine license. This is one of the most thorough and complete packages
Oh, thank you.
that I've seen in the 15 or so months that I've been doing this. And you really took to heart our standard conditions for service industry establishments with the addendum that you had outlined the specific things that were inconsistent with our standard conditions and brought those to our attention. So unless you have anything, I don't know if everybody had a chance to review those 2 documents, which I highlighted in the agenda and the rest of the case files. If you have anything to add to that, or if there are any questions,
I don't.
I think it's pretty straightforward. I don't know if anybody has any comments from the committee.
Well, actually, I do have one comment. I got a phone call 2 weeks ago, I believe, from Sergeant Beck, I believe it is, who is the vice sergeant in charge. He indicated that they did an undercover, passed with flying colors, found no issues.
Okay.
They're not going to be sending any type of letter, going to the hearing, and they plan to keep going back because they like the food.
Yes. I'm gonna put no objection.
Okay.
I'm not gonna say he's supported or
It's-
anything.
No, no, but
It's-
that's what they don't do.
It's interesting that because there's no, he was looking for potential service of alcohol before.
Oh, no,
I
my underage minors, other kinds of stuff, they have this whole check sheet that they do undercover.
But we
But
have no alcohol there.
Right,
so I don't-
presently.
Well, that doesn't mean.
Yeah, I get it.
I did a little inspection myself. Took my girlfriend there. We had some delicious ramen. And then it was so good I had to have another inspection. About 3 days later, it's Sarah's new favorite ramen place, and I would really like to have an Asahi beer with that, a nice dry beer with hot, spicy ramen. So, maybe I have to recuse myself now, I don't know, but,
Yes, you've taken,
I've ta-
I've
I've
been
ta-
bribed.
I've taken a position, no, I paid for the ramen, I
No,
left a
no.
generous tip.
with the food bribed. I just want to let you know that people used to accuse Lisa of that all the time. Can we go through these and then can I, because I got yelled at last time, it was too messy.
Sure, yeah.
So I can cross-
But you
cross
have,
off
have you
stuff.
seen, you've seen the signed copy, which I have you seen the signed copy which was in the,
That's this one.
right, that's the addendum to that.
This is the addendum to that.
That's the addendum to this, which wasn't in the, which
Okay.
didn't get in the
All
filing
right, but there's
package.
some stuff like door charge that's not applicable, so we should cross that out, or you don't want to proceed that way?
I mean, if,
No, you tell me.
I don't think that it's necessary. I don't think that it's necessary, but if you would like to for thoroughness and you're here and want to take the time,
So the
I don't
business,
think it really hurts anything to have that, because you may have a double charge down. Who knows what happens years from now?
right, not applicable,
okay,
but
so business shall close at what time on Saturday, Sunday?
that's on the addendum. So, no, so just, which is not attached to that, so just, it's
This
there.
addendum.
It's their current operating hours. And it's on the agenda too. It's
PM.
11 a.m. to 10, Sunday through Thursday, and 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. Friday through Saturday. We've got this is the attorney wing here.
Oh, okay.
Well, no, what we're doing is we're trying to do a new formula for having consistency. So I'm trying to make sure that everything is coordinated and clear, because the first time I did it, people yelled at me because there was too much back and forth.
Yeah, it's good to do. It's good to do in the forum, I think, so that.
Right, okay. So I don't need this because I filled it in somewhere else. That will only confuse me. So you've agreed to all these conditions and you want to add these, or are these by way of further explanation, condition
Right,
number
so we
4?
agreed with the conditions that was sent, but there's a couple of addendums based on their existing mode and operation, that's all.
And the fact that certain of the management functions are the shopping center,
Right.
the mall itself.
Exactly.
Addendum. Is there a date on this? Ha. I can date this as 6/5/17 by the footer.
Sure.
Yes.
Dated 6/5/2017. Okay. 8/7. Did that? No change. C, planning application. Okay, guys,
For which
we're referring to another document.
for which one?
The addendums. No change, number 7.
Oh, for the time period?
Right.
Yeah, but I think that's fine. We only ever usually just fill in the time, right? So,
Yeah, but I'm just, technicalities of referring to another document. Okay,
I know. Well, that's why I put you all together because,
That can be taken out
we
completely.
can have a huddle.
yeah.
So we just,
Because that's just superfluous, say
Well-
no change.
There's no change.
but it's already, it says no change, C. Yeah, what do you want to do, guys?
Keep it simple.
Eliminate that.
Yeah, I think that just refers to that on the application, there's a page, maybe the second or third page, that talks about the time.
Do you have the application so I can?
Yeah, here's the
Cross it.
master land use application.
I don't know if it's the second or third page, but there's like a little box that you put the time in.
Yeah.
Right here,
Hours
3.
of operation,
C, CA 201 7-2200, page 2, CP 7771.1.
Yeah, and we'll have
We're all in
Yeah.
agreement?
yeah, we'll have on the motion, we'll refer to that case number as well.
Okay, it's just, yeah, this probably should be.
Do you want to merge these two documents?
No, because I want to do what we have here.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put this, wait, do we have this case number? We want an exception, variance
I don't know that
Yes.
it's on there.
Condo small other,
I know, but that document is not quite ready for prime time yet, as far as I'm concerned. So I would just I think I would like to introduce a motion to approve this application, reference the standard conditions with the addendum. And because what I'm gonna end up writing, it's an exercise in copying and pasting from the application itself, from the planning department website into our land use committee agenda, and then that gets copied and pasted into our motion
Motion to the board.
template, and then motion to board. So introducing a third, this can be useful, but I think this particular document might be useful in certain
okay.
less routine circumstances. Introducing another piece of paper into this document, especially with our standard conditions, may not be productive.
As soon as you find out what the right conditions are, let's just record the whole thing.
Well, the record, you mean with the county recorder?
Yes, the only way it's gonna run with the land is if you got what you want,
Right,
sign off, notarize, file it, you're done.
right, but we have to have the applicant or the owner do that, right?
No, we can,
No, we can do
No,
Okay, so that's something that we might want to spend some time talking about the process and how we're going to go about doing that, and probably check with the city attorney for what that
so
process
you're
is.
authorized to speak for the owners?
Oh, absolutely.
He's
We
the-
could require
he's the
the owners
listed, the
to-
listed applicant.
Bring
Right,
proof
but
to us that they've
With
done it.
record,
Yeah.
I wanna make
And
sure.
then it becomes
Yes, sir.
effective, we can make it a condition concurrent with them proving that that actually was filed.
Yeah.
Let them do the work, bring it back to us, condition concurrent, upon receiving it, the whole thing, then it's approved by us, and then we recommend it.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Well,
We make a motion, the motion will come first, but I would make I would make its finality contingent on us having proof that the conditions were filed so that it runs with the land, so that future owners cannot violate those conditions.
right, but one of the challenges, I think, in this instance is that it's in a mall, so that
Well, that's fine.
it's
all
fine.
again what he's promising,
Exactly.
not the owner's promising.
And the mall,
Okay.
whatever the mall requires, we wouldn't require anything on that.
All right, but I mean, are we talking about this is a future intent? I don't know that we are going to apply this to this particular instance.
Maybe we're working up to it.
I think we can though.
I think we can too, but I'm just waiting to hear other opinions to my left.
I would just be a tad bit cautious because, again, we haven't even gotten approval from the city.
Right.
And those conditions from the city may, I doubt, but may not match up exactly to that of the Studio City. I'm assuming it will be.
Most of our
They
standard
generally do.
conditions are right out of the
Right.
municipal code
So
anyway.
we are required to do a covenant agreement with the county or the city that runs with the land. So more than likely, the conditions that you guys are recommending will be incorporated in what the city does, so that takes care of everything.
It would be.
Okay.
We'd make it, it's contingent on us not violating any city conditions or being contrary to any city conditions, but being consistent with any city conditions. We're not trying to, we make recommendations, we don't have the power.
Right.
So that we couldn't overrule anything that has to do with what the city requires anyway, even
Right.
if we wanted to, which we wouldn't.
Right.
I'm just a little concerned, and I'm not an attorney, I'm just a little concerned that you might have two conflicting
Wouldn't be.
documents. So
It would not be.
okay,
Wouldn't be.
I would suggest that we wait to see what the city imposes.
I don't think we're gonna run out there, our plan would not be in any case to run out there and
No,
do
no.
it before there was a final status.
Well, first of all, our opportunity to, and I appreciate your patience with us as we kind of go through this internal discussion, but, I mean, our opportunity to get something on the file is before the city makes the decision, right, before the hearing date.
Right.
So whatever we do, it has to be, this is just descriptive, so whatever we do has to be, is a priori, is that the right term, to the city
Just
approval?
like a parking covenant, it's one of the papers you in before you get your permit, you gotta have a parking covenant. This is another covenant, same idea.
Right.
Filed with the county,
To,
and part of the stack of papers.
So the operating hours, for example, will be are covered by the city, right? Most of what is in this document is out of the municipal code, so it's required anyway.
Right.
The only thing that makes our conditions unique is that it gives us some kind of soft powers to require that these are integrated into the operating conditions, that employees are trained in to know these things, and that there's a copy on site, and that theoretically anybody from the community can go to the manager and say, show us your operating manual, and we.
Well,
Yeah.
I
So-
think the idea behind this was to make sure that there was clarity between the community and the owner as to what the owner's responsibilities were to their neighbors.
And I think
And we
that,
tried to spell it out in plain old English as opposed to legal mumbo jumbo that we
Right.
excel in.
True.
and I think that it succeeds
Okay.
in that regard. I think that there may be situations where a recorded covenant might be more useful, but in these applications, I don't know that it's necessarily
Okay, so we'll
constructive.
continue our discussion, right?
I think we should continue that discussion
So I'm
and
making a motion to
let you go to your
support-
next land use committee
No,
meeting.
we're making a motion.
I would make a motion to
the request for
support.
the liquor license as requested, with the conditions set forth on our form and the addendum. And we need signatures on the addendum as well. We need your
Yes.
signature, boss.
Does it refer to the addendum and incorporate it by reference? If it doesn't, then we need a signature on the addendum as well.
It doesn't say that. This addendum
we need a
refers, yes, it
signature on
is,
the
it does say,
addendum.
refers to and is incorporated herein. So, yeah, okay. Did you want a second?
I would love to second. I would love to second that motion, Joanne.
Okay.
All right, so we'll call the vote.
All in favor?
I-
All opposed?
Wait, give me a count.
You see, it's everybody who's here, which is now
Everybody's in favor.
7.
This is
Seven.
And now all of us.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your patience and, again, your very thorough application.
Sign
You know,
here.
I was
I
going
have
actually, I'm
to
not going
sign
to
now.
another meeting. I was going to go to Black Market, but I may go to Jinya now. No, I love the.
They're both good.
Sign here.
At Black Market, I get the lemon pepper shrimp.
That's ours.
And it's been a while
Yeah,
since
that's
I've had it.
yours.
So I think that's
Go
what
for
I'm gonna
it,
do.
celebrate.
Yeah.
All right,
Guys, take
thanks,
care.
Nathan. Nice to meet you. Why are you getting my signature? Now I'm worried.
You better be.
Attorneys, I've got an attorney at home who I should have review these things.
Should we have him sign the addendum or?
We have-
No, we decided it was incorporated here and by
By
reference.
reference, okay.
Yeah.
So who brought a stapler?
So we need to,
Oh, we have one more.
I'll just segregate it right in here, and I'll keep them together.
Okay.
Yes, I do think that it may be, in certain condo or small lot subdivision cases where the recordation might be more.
Well, I think Harvard Westlake is a reflection of the privileges that people tend to take.
Right, but I do.
And it's if we can't stop it unless we do the recording.
Uh,
So I think
It's really
you need to,
easier if
you
you
need
just
to.
go to.
all right, let's.
No, he's talking about the implication.
No. Well, there
Not
are
the-
several
not
things.
the-
There's the labor requirement of doing it. If we can pass that to the applicant, then that's one thing, right?
But it's no different if you told them, get your parking covenant recorded and put it in the file.
I understand.
It's same.
No, I know. I get that. I get that.
There's just a
But
lot of stuff going on.
to me, it's
Trying to, like,
it's
rush to get ready.
yeah.
Well, let's talk about it in
And by the way, the company's in favor of the
Well, I mean,
city.
we're not.
Motion to adjourn?
No. We've got one. No, we've got one more.
Where?
All right. Well, yeah, exactly. Where? So okay. Well, let's go now to item 7. Right. This is LEMP, which we continued from last time. Right.
And you went to the meeting last night. so-
No. That was Gentry, but they were gone, or there was actually live entertainment. I'll come to that at the end. This is LEMP, which was the one that was too small. It was the 8-lot subdivision on LEMP.
This guy who wanted 9?
No, here's the. Well, let's pass this around. Did you guys not click through and check all the files and
Yeah, that's mineral.
here?
No, I was looking at the agenda.
It's that one. Oh, okay. It was this way, it was too small, that we had the three gentlemen from the, you had done the research and found their website,
Right.
and we had some neighbors from the apartments who were concerned, and a couple
And
neighbors.
they never did anything?
We said, we'll come back again. And I notified the neighbors who had given our email address and the applicant, and they never did anything. Now, that was the meeting where Barry stood up and said, and basically, eviscerated
Doesn't matter.
well, whatever, but he basically said that we have no standard conditions for it. It basically kind of undermined the implied authority of the committee and the board, which
Well,
did.
that's I've always had issue with that because I don't think that what the law is needs to be the limitations of what we can do. I've always felt that we need to be forward-thinking and we need to be
I understand.
creative and problem-solving in the community. And I don't think we should understand the MOU and there's limitations, but we're the only place that has the half a parking space.
No, I understand,
all that
and
stuff.
no, that's not true. That's generally.
We were the only place,
Yeah. So,
and people grew on us.
Groundbreakers. No, and the conversation we had last night at Cultural Affairs kind of gave me some insight into your politics, and it's also related to the history of Studio City, which is very interesting. I think largely in terms of, say, beer and wine license, that this is outreach, right, where you sit and establish those values that we have, and kind of put a face on the community, and get to an opportunity to kind of exchange expectations with the applicant. In terms of these other applications like the condo, okay, so while we're talk about the Gentry condos, right, which the neighbors that was another case that was a 2-meeting case, right? I think we should definitely be able to handle these in one meeting if we figure out our system.
Well, usually,
right?
I have to say, the chair spent time with the people and sorted all this stuff out and got compromises for them before they showed up at the first meeting.
Yeah,
And
well,
so usually a chair plus one.
it's a labor and time issue how to go about doing it. Now, I will say for the Gentry condos, which was the 9-unit by right and adding a 10th, that was a crappy project. It was not a good project. There was the additional ask for the additional unit, but once the neighbors and the developers both came to the understanding that the neighbors could appeal that if it was approved by the planning department, it kind of gave the neighbors some leverage. And they had 3 meetings, one of them theoretically last night, although I don't know if it happened in Crave. I didn't get there in time, or they were someplace else because there was live music. But they did engage, right? And I think from the emails that I've read, and I would like to get a follow-up report from the neighbors to see how it went. But I think that to the degree to which that level of engagement, once the neighbors know their power and the developers know the neighbors know their power, can largely occur without our intervention, or mild, low labor time intervention.
So then, when they first come up on the radar, they should be sent out to meet arbitration, more or less.
Yes,
With-
and with that we emailed you and I about this pre-informing the process, right? Maybe with some diagrams that show the picture of the developer, like, if you want to convince your
flow chart.
neighbors, well, a process chart would be good too, but I had sent some overlay with some red arrows of the perspectives that were generated by the applicant, showing arrows looking into the neighboring property. This is the issue we're talking about, right? So that the
Yeah, but
developer
you're the only one
knows.
who has the skill to do that.
But I can do a model of a typical apartment building, right? Like we can do a template for that too, and say this is so. Anyway, in terms of that was not a good project, and it had more problems than this project. The big problem with this is that they didn't really provide us with sufficiently sized drawings, although we did have the electronic version of the drawings. We had some members of the audience who weren't, facile with computers, whatever. But this is not really an objectionable project from the standpoint of, the only problem with this one is that they're showing wrought iron balconies, right? It's kind of counter to our expectation of a solid. So I don't know, but I think that because
They must have reached some agreement for nobody to be here.
No, because it's a VTT. It's a vesting tentative tract. It's California Map Act. There's really no leverage in that instant. We have more leverage with an apartment building asking for exceptions than we really do with a condo or a small lot
Well,
subdivision,
so what are
because
they gonna go to the ZA with?
I mean, they don't,
We have to do something, we have to say that nobody showed up.
well, that we can say that, we can,
Or nobody showed up to,
we can take no action, or we can say,
well, a no action suggests that we're neutral, and we're not.
well, I don't know
Table
that,
it.
I don't know that we're not. I
Can we
mean,
table
I don't think this is a
think
tremendously
table-
objectionable project.
No, but you're asking whether or not we could table it. I think we have to say something to the zoning
The hearing-
administration to be, in order to be on record at the time of the hearing. And I think that we just say that it was on the committee was prepared to consider whatever compromises the parties had arrived, and we received no communication from either of the parties, and nobody appeared.
In this particular case, there wasn't the expectation that they were going to put their heads together. There was the expectation that they would come back. But neither the applicant nor the neighbors who appeared the first time chose to come back.
Have they not been in touch with you?
I noticed everybody that I had email addresses for, the applicant
Uh-huh.
and those neighbors. I
But there's
sent
a
them-
reason they're not here.
Well, you would think they would tell you if they're coming,
Yeah.
or if they came to an agreement. I mean, some.
The reason the applicant's not here is because it doesn't really, because for a small lot subdivision,
can't-
it doesn't really,
you can't-
it doesn't really matter to them. Because
Well,
we
then,
can't
well,
condition.
You can't say that. You
I mean,
can't make
but-
that, I think that's a presumption that's not
No,
that's
no, no,
not
no.
justified.
According to the California MAP Act, you can't condition the subdivision of land.
I understand the
you mean
technicality.
I can
You
say it.
cannot make the presumption that that's what the neighbors, that's the conclusion that the neighbors have drawn.
No, I'm saying that's the conclusion the applicant has drawn. That they don't, that.
I don't think we're in a
Well, why
position
don't
I'm
to
not
you
do
gonna,
say
that.
I'm not talking about saying it, I'm not talking
Oh,
about
okay,
saying it
oh.
officially, I'm just talking about
Oh, I don't
the
care
actual
about
Why
it.
can't we
mechanics of
just
that.
pass it forward to the board without recommendation?
Of course.
Yeah,
You've
just-
done your job.
That's one way to do it. And now, the first two,
Yeah, they can talk.
small lot subdivision we did is in our early infancy of this incarnation of the LUC. We had two small lot subdivisions, and we didn't like either one. We said, no, we don't approve these. And we went to the board, and the board members will remember that that was the motion. We don't approve it. And then Rita Villa said, well, we like to add some. We like to say we don't approve it without saying
Right.
we would approve it if. We don't approve it unless.
Right.
So simply we could say we don't approve it unless it conforms to these conditions, and reference our standard conditions. That's the way I would think we could
Well,
handle
what are our
it.
notes from the last meeting on this?
Basically that it's basically we heard neighbor comments. We looked at the drawings. We said the drawings are too small. We can't really tell what's going on. Right? But if we do a
This is
kind
the
of
one
a
project.
if we don't approve it unless, then we're not really imposing standard conditions. We're saying, do this if you want our approval, which is fine. We're not really talking to the applicant so much as talking to the planning committee, the planning department. So, in a case like this, it's very interesting that nobody's here, and yet we could still talk about this for 20 minutes or longer, perhaps. But
I
So
don't
just
have-
pass
I
it
don't have-
forward
I
then.
don't have notes from one.
yeah, well, you know what the board won't know what to do. I mean, they won't know. They won't take any
Fine, but
action.
it's the board's responsibility to know, not know, or
All right.
whatever. It's their responsibility. Let them deal with it. I would recommend that you tell people to get down here
Yeah.
by email.
Well,
you
maybe
know.
that's what they're gonna do, is they're just gonna show up at the board.
Just say
This
if
is
you
a waste of
know,
time.
you might wish to come to the meeting next Wednesday.
Oh yeah.
Blah blah blah. But meanwhile, you can put a neutral recommendation and move it forward so it's still on calendar.
All right.
I would do that. I would simply state that we can't give a recommendation because nobody showed up.
Right. Well, I mean,
That's what happened.
well,
That's the truth.
we still have the opinion or the judgment that we could make, and some strategy. I mean, the board, I think, needs guidance on how to approach it. So, I mean, but yes, us saying we don't approve it unless the project meets these conditions is really not that toothy anyway.
Well, we don't
So-
know where they went. I mean, they might have met the condition. We don't know what they did. Nobody cared enough to show
No
up.
appearances.
Yeah. All right. So does that? So
Not
to pass it
approved
on, we do a
without-
motion to
condition.
pass it to the
Pass
board.
forward, yeah.
All right.
Well, we can,
I would do a motion to pass it on, and I would state that no one showed up to,
Yeah, all right.
we couldn't have any communication with either side on this, so that we simply can't make any definitive recommendation
All right.
at this time.
Yeah, I mean,
At this time,
that
because
makes
they may
sense.
want to come back before us again.
It won't, it's gonna
Well,
be.
they may show up
it's-
next week
No,
and.
it'll be, no, it's an expedited project and it'll be heard by the planning department before.
I think
We'll
it has-
state what we know. I would just state what we know
I like
and leave
it.
the rest of it alone.
I like it, okay.
Some objections were voiced.
Concerns, right, that were unanswerable based on the documentation that we had.
It's unresolved.
By neighbors at the prior meeting, which was,
It was the 14th of June. June 14th.
Flag Day.
All right, we're actually doing okay. Well, I mean, I wanted to keep this to an hour, so we're pretty close.
be resolved.
That's not exactly the criteria.
Well, no, but I mean, I figure with two items on the, and I figured that we might have this, our this public conversation, but, you know, it was,
Okay, so what we're saying is, there are no appearances, the project will not be approved without conditions, and at the June 14th, 2017 meeting, there were neighbors who did appear and had concerns about the project, which could not be resolved during that meeting because there was insufficient documentation presented to the committee.
sure. Yeah,
So
good.
that's going to be our motion?
Yeah, good. All right, you're making that motion? You so move?
I so move.
I so second.
Well, so what paperwork are we,
Well, I'm gonna take a picture of that
okay.
document that you just wrote, and then I'll type that up, and that'll be that.
This is when.
All right. Do you know what we're voting on? Do you want to read
Do we
that motion again?
switch seats so we can all run over there and you can run over here?
No. Just read that. Read that one more
So, I
time.
said, the decision on the Lent matter is that there are no appearances by either side at the meeting today, at the committee meeting. We're not going to approve the project if it does not completely comply with our standard conditions. At the June 14th, 2017 meeting, there were several neighbors who voiced their concerns about the project, and those concerns could not be addressed or resolved with the documents that were available to the committee at the time.
Right.
That sounds neutral, yeah.
Yep. Good.
Yeah. I mean, my only concern with that is that we're referencing standard conditions, which are still somewhat controversial because they haven't been blessed by the city attorney. But
We can make them our standard conditions.
I think that's fine. In this context, I think that's fine, and we'll pursue that problem
Do you want me to
separately.
rewrite this, or are you going to take it off the tape? Mark the record?
No, I'm just gonna take a picture of that.
Well, it's not exactly that. Okay.
Okay. Well, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, another unanimous vote. Well, we're like a herd here. Okay, good.
Moving right along.
Okay. Yeah, or you can rewrite it, if you want to rewrite it and email it to me, you can. I trust that you won't change it.
Of
Anyway,
course I'm gonna change it.
I've memorized it up here, so don't change it. Okay, so that's the two cases. Okay, so discussion, so number 8 is nothing. Closing comments by committee chair. Okay, so August plan, as you recall from the June meeting, I was going to be on the beach right now, but I'm not. In August, I am going to be on the beach. So, Richard has a good point, that is our consistency in being here, regardless of whether we have cases to hear. So I think you'll probably convene a meeting. I can help with an agenda. I don't suspect we're going to have any cases. The flow has slowed down.
Just as long, we are available to stakeholders if they want to
Right.
approach their government for a redress of grievances.
Right. Okay. And then as far as how we pursue this issue of the recordation of these conditions, I would like to get something together, some sort of a process chart and a kind of a proposal that we can run past the city attorney to see what their take on that is. Do you think that's I mean, the city attorney seems to want to see all of these
We can do that,
things.
but But when I talk to the city attorney, no, this is again, I'm talking to Mr. Carver, who's the highest non-elected city attorney recently.
Yeah.
He said, dude, that's where all this whole thing came from on the projects here basically. And he's the one that said, get rid of all the voluntary conditions. Everything had to be mandatory. If you want them to do a condition that runs with the land, do it basically. Make sure you write who the covenant's in favor of.
Okay,
For the small condos and small lots, it's in favor of the neighbors. For the utility stuff, it's in favor of the city itself.
all right, so we need to formalize this process and it's okay if a tenant of a small shopping center records that running with the land, even though they
Yes,
don't own the
because-
land, and
Right.
that's
exactly,
what
because-
seems
Well, why
strange
don't
to
you
me.
send an email to this guy and clear, he's concerned, so why don't you send
I
an
just
email
wanna- I just
and
wanna-
get it-
I
get it
just wanna-
clear from this guy whether or not we can record.
Yeah.
That's your concern.
Well,
so-
my concern is twofold. I just want to be able to sit down and have I want to be able to, again, like we're talking about with the condo and small lot subdivision developers, I want to have something we can send to the applicants in advance, right? And say, this is what our expectations are, this is what we want you to do.
Yeah,
And it's
I
defined, so
was-
we don't have to haggle over it.
I was
you
just
know.
doing, just only addressing the recordation issue.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm just,
Right.
can we
But
just
the key is
address
who is-
the recordation?
Right, so
It's
let's-
not a key of who needs to file it, it's if it can be filed. Doesn't matter who files it,
Right.
let's just get.
If it can be
So
filed-
if you can send that email.
The important is
Do
to
you have your
who's
approval to
And
do
then
that?
we'll
in
do-
favor
absolutely.
of. That's basically.
Okay, and then
No, we're not
City of
answering,
LA.
we're not asking that question, we're asking, can it be recorded, period? Can
Well,
a picture of my shoe be recorded?
it's the legal team that wants to be able to do
Right.
this, so I would expect you guys to put your heads together and figure
That's all,
out.
I'm not asking,
I wanna
I'm
make
not
sure
going
that-
to any of the details that you wanna go.
Okay, I'm just trying to make sure that with the city's gonna ask, who do you want to have in favor of?
Okay, so.
I think the same as the parking covenant, just
Okay.
like the city of LA.
I'll leave that to you. I want to just make sure, because I don't want to get my head bit off that it's not, that it's something we can't do legally. And then we just formalize the process in some way, and I'll help with whatever I can do, a flow chart or something like that, once we define it, so that we can pre-inform the process, that the applicant understands what the expectations are before they sit down here, and we have to try to describe it, or if we do, we can describe it very clearly. I'm not opposed to it, it just makes me, I don't exactly understand it, so I can't describe it, and I don't, we just need to be able to be clear about it, right, that's all. And then the final thing is on the minutes, attached to the minutes, I've included this good neighbor policy, right, which has construction hours. Last time we talked about construction hours, there was some
Yeah.
question about what they were, but this is a good document. You'll notice that I've referenced this document in the agenda. I'm trying to start building the agendas with the kind of layers of information that are useful to the applicant and to the neighborhood community, so that they have that pre-information, right, and kind of that there's informational symmetry, and that the neighbors know what is expected of the
Okay.
contractors, that the contractors know what's expected. Anyway, that's just something you may want to put in a binder or have to reference.
So we're on the
I
same
see
page.
it.
And unless anybody else has any other comments,
Motion to
Second it.
Second.
let's see what time it is.
8:15.
Oh, 8:15, okay, that's good.
You run over.
Run
That's
time.
good, yeah, but I'd like to be at least 25% over my goals of time. All right, I'll second it.